Hi, third grade. I thought that today it might be fun to change pace. And since the weather is so amazing today, I thought that would be fun to record your math instructional video from my backyard instead of my kitchen. Because you're probably sick of looking at my stove and my yellow walls. Now I get to look at my yellow garage instead. Today we are doing lesson 112, which is reducing fractions. And the objective is write the reduced form of a fraction. And we have done this a little bit already in Power-Ups, but I'm going to teach you a trick for figuring out what number you need to divide by in order to reduce your fractions when you look at the numerator and the denominator. And that's also going to be a little bit of a review for you as well. So your worksheet for lesson 112 says reducing fractions. It says use mental math to divide the numerator or the top number and the denominator or the bottom number by the same number. And the example they give you is to reduce 8/12. And they tell you in there the hint is to divide 8 and 12 by 4. So we're going to do that together, and then I'm going to tell you why the hint was 4. And you'll notice that 1 through 3 also give you a hint. They tell you what number to divide by, but then 4 through 9 do not. And so I'm going to teach you how to figure out what that hint is when it's not given to you. So the example was 8/12. And they said that we are going to divide by 4. Now, normally when we've been doing adding and subtracting with fractions, the numerator changes, but the denominator doesn't change. When you're reducing a fraction, you have to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So I'm going to do 8 divided by 4, 12 divided by 4, and that's going to give me my new reduced fraction. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So we already did our lesson on equivalent fractions. 8/12 and 2/3 would be equivalent fractions. And 2/3 is the smallest numbers that I could use to describe that same fraction. Usually when we want fractions to be reduced, we want to use the smallest possible numerator and the smallest possible denominator, but still not change the value of the fraction. So 8/12 and 2/3 are equivalent fractions. Now, 1 through 3 give you hints on the bottom, and they'll tell you what to divide by. So we're going to look at some of these other ones to see how did they come up with hint divide by 2, hint divide by 3, hint divide by 4. We're going to try number 4, which is 6 divided by 9. And I'm going to teach you a term that this lesson doesn't teach you, but I want you to know it because it's really valuable. So there is a term that sometimes is abbreviated GCF. GCF. Now, GCF stands for greatest common factor. Greatest common factor, or GCF. When you are reducing fractions, you want to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. What factor is the largest number that both of my numerator and my denominator have in common? So I'm going to move this a little bit. What are the factors of 6? So I know 1 is a factor, and I know 6 is a factor, because 1 in itself are always going to be factors. Those are numbers that we multiply to get 6 as our product. 6 is an even number, so I know 2 is going to be a factor. So 3 has to be a factor because 2 times 3 equals 6. And that's actually all of my factors of 6. Now I'm going to look at my factors of 9. And I know that 1 and 9 are going to be factors. Now 9 is a special number. It is a square, so it actually has an odd number of factors. The only other factor of 9 is 3, because 3 times 3 equals 9. So I'm going to look at what are the numbers that are not common at all. 9 is not in both of my lists. 6 is not in both of my lists. 2 is not in both of my lists. I am left with 1 and 3 as common factors of 6 and 9. That means that both 6 and 9 have 1 and 3 as factors. Now, which one of those is the larger number? 3. So my GCF, my greatest common factor, is 3. That's the number I am going to use to divide. So I'm going to take 6 divided by 3 and 9 divided by 3. Both my numerator and denominator have to be divided by the same number. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So this one also reduces to 2/3. I'm going to try one more because I want to show you something interesting. We're going to try 4/12. So I'm going to find my GCF first. I'm going to look for the greatest common factor. The factors of 4 are 1 and 4, because 1 times itself or 1 times 4 equals 4. And then 4 is a square, so it has an odd number of factors. 2 times itself is also 4. 1, 2, and 4 are the factors of 4. 12 has a lot of factors. I know that 1 and 12 will be factors. It's an even number, so I also know 2 has to be a factor. I would multiply 2 by 6 to get 12, so 6 is a factor. And it has 2 more factors. Remember, if I can add up both digits in a number, and if it adds up to a number divisible by 3, I know 3 is going to be a factor. 2 plus 1 is 3, so I know 3 is a factor. 3 times 4 equals 12. So I'm going to cross off any number that does not appear in both sets of factors. 12 is not in every number in every list. 6 is not in each list. 3 is not in each list. So I'm left with 1, 2, and 4. And the largest of those is 4. So that is my GCF. That's my greatest common factor. So I'm going to divide 4 by 4 and divide 12 by 4. Identity property, 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So this reduces to 1/3. Now, sometimes you might notice 4 was my numerator. That was also my GCF. So sometimes one of your numbers is your greatest common factor. It's not one of the numbers that goes into it. That's smaller, like the other ones did. Like we had 4 was the greatest common factor in 8/12, and 3 was the greatest common factor in 6/9. 3 and 4 were not the numerator in either one of those problems, but sometimes you will have the numerator right away be your greatest common factor, like in 4/12, reducing to 1/3. We did 2 of the problems that are on your worksheet. So if you can figure out which ones we did together, you have 7 more problems to do on your own.